All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're going to address a highly romanticized image that I guarantee almost all of us have about cowboy life on the American frontier. You know that picture we all have in our heads? When you think of the Wild West, you probably picture a rugged hero sitting by a crackling campfire after a long day of riding, just eating like an absolute king.
So what did these guys actually eat out there on the dusty trail? Think about it for a second. If you're instantly picturing a thick, perfectly charred steak sizzling over an open flame under the stars, well, you're definitely not alone. It's kind of what Hollywood's been feeding us for decades, right? But the reality? Oh man, it was vastly different, way harsher, and honestly, a whole lot more fascinating. Let's go ahead and shatter that gorgeous Hollywood myth right now and look at the gritty reality. No steaks under the open sky here. We're talking hardtack, salt belly, and beans. And what's wild is that this hyper-practical menu was basically locked in all the way back in 1867. That's when a trail cook named Charles Goodnight literally bolted a wooden box to the back of an army wagon and boom, invented the very first chuck wagon. That one simple innovation completely changed American history, trading the fantasy of prime cuts for hardcore survival rations meant to get guys across 2,000 miles of pure dust and danger.
Okay, moving into Section 1, Everyday Staples of Survival, the gritty reality of the frontier diet. To really wrap our heads around this baseline of pure survival, we gotta look at the grim economics of it all. Feeding a crew of 12 cowboys, it was 100% about maximizing calories for the absolute cheapest price possible. Take salt pork, or salt belly as they called it. In the 1880s, that ran a mere 12 cents a pound. The cook would slice it super thick and fry it up just to extract every single drop of fat and protein. Then you had your pinto or brown beans. These came in massive 100-pound sacks, and they'd be tossed right into the pan to soak up those precious pork drippings. Get this, a trail boss's entire food budget for a 12-man crew was roughly $200 a month. That tiny budget had to sustain grown men doing incredibly heavy, dangerous manual labor, literally day in and day out.
Which brings us to a menu item with a very deceptive name, Pecos strawberries. Now, out on the dry plains, real strawberries were an absolute fantasy. Pecos strawberries was just the trail's dark humor name for, yep, plain old red beans. They ate them so often, we're talking twice a day for weeks on end, that the cowboys joked they might as well be eating fresh fruit. But here's the thing, while the men complained bitterly about the mind-numbing monotony, these strawberries were packing a critical 15 grams of protein per serving. It's exactly what kept their bodies moving and their dark humor alive across that endless prairie.
And nothing illustrates the daily struggle better than this 4-step descent into carbohydrate desperation. Step 1, this was the dream. Hot, flaky sourdough biscuits made from a fiercely guarded living yeast starter. But say you didn't have time or yeast, you drop to Step 2, corn dodgers. Basically just dense, heavy little pucks of cheap cornmeal and water. Then it gets worse. Step 3, hardtack. Absolute dense survival rations. Just flour and water baked until literally every drop of moisture was gone. Cowboys called them tooth dullers and actually had to soak them in coffee for 20 minutes just so they wouldn't break their teeth. And finally, if things were really dire, Step 4, cornmeal mush. The absolute rock-bottom floor of frontier cuisine. Just cornmeal boiled in water. Utterly boring, but hey, it kept you breathing when everything else ran out.
All right, Section 2, the almighty trail cook, master of the chuck wagon.
Because, none of these meals just magically appeared. Survival depended entirely on the real hero of our story, the trail cook. The chuck wagon wasn't just a kitchen. It was literally a pharmacy, a tool shed, and a morale station all rolled into one wooden box. Actually, the cook's status on a cattle drive was second only to the trail boss himself. He fiercely guarded that chuck box, which held everything from his precious sourdough starter to castor oil for when the guys got sick. The man worked from before dawn until well after midnight, constantly improvising with whatever scraps he had just to keep the crew in the saddle.
And speaking of improvisation, let's talk about coffee gravy. Yeah, it is exactly what it sounds like. It was this harsh, dark, incredibly practical gravy made by thickening leftover bacon grease with flour. And then, because fresh milk was pretty much non-existent on the trail, he'd loosen it up by pouring in leftover black coffee. Now, to our modern taste buds, pouring bitter coffee into bacon grease sounds, well, kind of gross. But think about it from their perspective. To exhausted men who desperately needed pure fat for energy and caffeine just to keep their eyes open, it tasted like pure genius.
Moving on to Section 3, Nose-to-Tail Frontier Nutrition, Survival Science Before Laboratories.
So,
let's dig into a fascinating reality of frontier life, nose-to-tail eating habits that would absolutely horrify your average modern American diner. Whenever a freshly slaughtered calf was available, usually because of some injury on the trail, the cook didn't fire up the grill for steaks. No way. He made son-of-a-gun stew. Check out these ingredients. They are intense. Heart, liver, sweetbreads, brains, and the marrow gut, which, for the record, is the partially digested milk tube connecting a young calf's stomachs. I know, it sounds totally jarring to us, but to the cowboys, this was a massive, mouth-watering celebratory dish. It honored the animal by wasting literally 0 parts of it, and that marrow gut gave the stew an incredibly rich, creamy flavor you just couldn't get from anything else.
And here is exactly why this matters so much. Quote, "Cowboys eating son-of-a-gun stew were consuming organ meats that delivered concentrated doses of vitamins A, B12, iron, and zinc." This is such a perfect connection between historical necessity and modern nutritional science. I mean, our great-great-grandfathers didn't have nutrition labels or high-tech labs, but they instinctively knew that plain old muscle meat wasn't going to cut it for brutal physical labor. Eating the whole animal was, at its core, a brilliant biological survival mechanism.
And you see that exact same instinct with 1800s marrowbone soup. This was the ultimate frontier recovery broth for exhausted, sick cowboys. Cooks would crack open heavy leg bones and simmer them for hours, a technique they actually borrowed directly from indigenous traditions to rebuild strength. Now contrast that with today's premium, super trendy modern bone broth. It's kind of funny, right? What we pay top dollar for in high-end grocery stores today was originally just the gritty, everyday practice of a desperate cowboy cook trying to keep his crew from literally collapsing on the trail.
Which brings us to Section 4, Rare Luxuries and Morale Boosters, a taste of home on the trail.
Let's look at what happened when the cook needed to lift spirits and cut through that endless, soul-crushing monotony of salt pork and beans. Enter Spotted Pup. This was a really simple, comforting pudding made of boiled rice, studded with plump raisins, and sweetened with molasses or brown sugar. The dark raisins sitting in the pale rice gave it that playful name, Spotted Pup. The cowboys absolutely loved this stuff. Along with these deep-fried donuts they called bear sign, Spotted Pup provided a desperately needed taste of home. In fact, supply wagons specifically packed dried fruit like raisins because they traveled so well and gave the men that tiny bit of sweetness to look forward to. But what do you do if you want a fruit pie and you literally have 0 fruit? Well, you make vinegar pie. Tangy, sweet, and surprisingly smooth, this dish was an absolute revelation born out of missing lemons and pure frontier ingenuity. These cooks brilliantly used the acidity of everyday pantry vinegar, mixed it up with sugar, eggs, and flour, and baked it. And the crazy thing is, the vinegar miraculously mimicked citrus. It completely fooled their exhausted taste buds into thinking they were eating a bright, fresh lemon pie right out there in the middle of the dusty plains.
Now, if a cowboy made it to town and really wanted to show off, he ordered a Hangtown fry. This was an extravagant California Gold Rush scramble that threw together the 3 priciest ingredients you could possibly find: fried oysters, bacon, and eggs. It actually started with wealthy miners, but the cowboys quickly adapted it the second canned goods, specifically canned oysters, started showing up in the supply wagons. Ordering a Hangtown fry wasn't just about getting calories, it was a total status symbol. It represented wealth, aspiration, and a brief, shining moment of absolute luxury in a life otherwise defined by hard dirt and cheap rations.
All right, our final section. Section 5. Coffee, the ultimate survival fuel. Medicine, morale, and ritual. Let's talk about the one true fuel that actually conquered the American West, even when absolutely all other food supplies failed. The name you needed to know was Arbuckle's Ariosa. This was a pre-roasted frontier coffee brand that was so overwhelmingly dominant, cowboys literally used the word Arbuckles as a generic term for all coffee. The beans actually came coated in this egg and sugar glaze to seal in the freshness. But, getting that coffee ground down was a huge chore. To solve that, the company brilliantly started dropping a single peppermint stick into every package. Trail cooks would use that tiny piece of candy to bribe exhausted cowboys into grinding the beans by hand, and the men eagerly volunteered, all for that single rare hit of sugar. 1 gallon. That is the absolutely staggering amount of coffee consumed per man per day on some of these cattle drives. Up to 1 entire gallon. This wasn't some casual morning beverage you sip while reading the paper. This was hot, bitter survival art. It was medicine, it was morale, and it was a sacred ritual, all poured into a battered tin cup. Honestly, a cowboy without coffee was a cowboy who probably wasn't making it through the day.
So, having taken this deep dive into the true reality of the chuck wagon, I've got one final question to leave you with. Which of these brutal frontier meals would you actually be brave enough to try today? I mean, could you stomach a plate of Pecos strawberries and tooth-dulling hardtack? Would you dare dig into a bowl of authentic son-of-a-gun stew? Looking back, it really makes you marvel at the sheer undeniable grit of the cowboy era. They sure didn't eat well by our modern standards, but they ate incredibly smart, and that made all the difference when it came to survival. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you walk away with a newfound respect for the actual heroes of the Wild West, the trail cooks. See you next time.